us upstanding as we welcome our very special guests for the 2025 African Bar Association Conference here at Labadi in Accra. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we shall now have the national anthem of the Republic of Ghana. Thank you very much. Your Royal Majesty King Teko Tru II, the Gaman Chair and President of the Ghana Traditional Council, Your Excellencies, the Honorable Acting Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, the Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Justice, all our dignitaries herein, learned colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning once again and welcome to the 2025 African Bar Association Conference here in Ghana, Accra. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini, and I will be your MC for this opening session. The African Bar is the voice, the fearless voice of the legal profession. It has gone round the various forum countries. In the last 2 years, we're in South Africa. It's been to other countries, and this is the turn of Ghana to play host. And the Ghana Bar Association has done an excellent job in coordinating with the steering committee, the local organizing committee, to make sure that today was made possible. Please, a round of applause for the executives and all who have been involved in making sure that today's beautiful occasion was possible. I will, without much ado, request that we begin with the rites of transition of AFBA, because the flag of AFBA from Law Association of Zambia to that of the Ghana Bar Association must happen now before we receive the welcome address. And to do that for us is none other but the President of the African Bar.
Here's the flag. The laws of Zambia.
Shall we please invite Tamara Tandewa, representing the President of the Law Association of Zambia, to help us do the transition. And also Colonel Milanzi from the Zambian Air Force.
President.
We would also have the President of the Bar here in Ghana to join us, because the Bar of Ghana will have to receive the flag. Right.
So you have to tell them what the significance is. Hold on. The significance of this ceremony is that this flag will stay in the office of Ghana Bar Association for the next 1 year before we go to another country. So Zambia, please hand over the march. Zambia was the last host. Kindly hand over the flag to Ghana Bar Association President.
Thank you very much. Thank you indeed, High Chief Ibrahim Idi Mark, President of the African Bar Association, initiating the transition of the African Bar flag from the Law Association of Zambia to the Ghana Bar Association. Your Excellencies, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, we will now welcome for remarks by the Ghana Bar Forum of the African Bar Association, led by its chair, Professor NX Kofi Abochi. Please keep acknowledging him.
Your Majesty, the Government Chair, my Lord, the Acting Chief Justice, the Honorable Attorney General, Excellencies, all other important dignitaries observed, ladies and gentlemen, today is a momentous day in the life of the Africa Bar Association, particularly its history with Ghana. I can't recall the last time Ghana hosted the Africa Bar, but I remember, or I do know, that the former president of Ghana, the immediate past president of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, was a past secretary of the Africa Bar Association. To this end, Ghana has played pivotal roles in the life of the Africa Bar Association, and the fact that today Ghana hosts this annual event is a testament to the confidence reposed not only in the Ghanaian rule of law, but also in the hospitality of its people. I'm delighted to be the chair of the Africa Bar in Ghana, and I am happy to say that Ghana is not only ready to host the continent, but as some would have testified to from reports of yesterday, we have indeed demonstrated our greatest resolve to host you and to give you the best of Ghanaian hospitality. It is in this light, and with the permission of the President of the Africa Bar, and indeed all other distinguished personalities gathered here, to officially welcome you as the head of the Africa Bar in Ghana, and to encourage all of us to explore all that Ghana has to offer, and more importantly, leave something from this country, which is going to be a memorabilia, whether physically or psychologically. My lords, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you are all therefore welcome to the 2025 Africa Bar Conference being organized by the Africa Bar Association and hosted in Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kofi Abochi. We will write by the chairman of the local organizing committee. They've done quite a great job. Let's put our hands together for Kweku Bafo Jeu. Please, let's welcome him.
My Lord, the Acting Chief Justice of the Republic, the Honorable Attorney General, the President of AFBA, President of the Ghana Bar Association, Nime, Name, may I stand on all the existing protocols? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this conference is more than just a meeting of lawyers. On behalf of the organizing committee it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to this year's Africa Bar Association Conference, a gathering of some of the finest legal minds, policy leaders, and justice advocates from across our beloved continent. When the AFBA Council graciously entrusted Ghana with the honor of hosting this year's conference, we accepted it with both excitement and a fair amount of anxiety. Excitement because Ghana is known for its legendary hospitality, and anxiety because, as lawyers, we all know how high our standards can be. But I'm happy to report that the LOC has worked tirelessly to ensure that everything from the venue and logistics to your comfort and experience meets and hopefully exceeds your expectations. Our preparations began many months ago, and through the collaboration of government agencies, sponsors, volunteers, and our indefatigable committee members, we have been able to put together what promises to be a truly memorable conference. Beyond the serious business of law and policy, we've also planned moments for relaxation and networking. It all started last night when we had the welcome night at the beach. We enjoyed a very good Ghanaian food, music, and perhaps we test our dancing skills to our local rhythms. This year's theme challenges us to reflect deeply on the role of the legal profession in shaping the future of our continent. Over the next few days, we will engage in thought-provoking discussions, share diverse perspectives, and hopefully leave here with renewed purpose and actionable ideas for strengthening justice and the rule of law in Africa. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this conference is a reaffirmation of our shared belief that Africa's progress depends on strong institutions, accountable governance, and a legal community that speaks with courage and integrity. Once again, on behalf of the local organizing committee, I welcome you to Accra, the gateway of Africa. Please feel free at home, participate fully, enjoy every moment of this conference. Thank you, and may we have a fruitful and inspiring week together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kweku Jeoba, for Secretary of the Ghana Bar Association, speaking on behalf of the local organizing committee of the 2025 African Bar Association's annual conference here in Accra, in the prestigious Labadi Beach Hotel. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, please, let's welcome the President, the indefatigable President of the Ghana Bar Association, Mrs. Ifwa Gate, the very first woman President of the Ghana Bar Association, to welcome us.
Thank you very much. King Taki Teria True, the Gamanche, the Acting Chief Justice, His Lordship Justice Paul Bafuboni, my Lord Spiritual and Temporal, the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice, my learned friends, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As the President of the Ghana Bar Association, I warmly welcome you to Ghana, the proud host of the 2025 Africa Bar Association Annual Conference. I do recall vividly that in the year 2000, as an executive member of the Ghana Bar Association, Ghana played host to the Africa Bar Association at the La Palm Beach Hotel, which is just next door, and the conference was a resounding success. The local planning committee of that conference, of which I was a member, was chaired by the Right Honorable Peter Alajete. He won the elections that year and became the president of AFBA. And in 2001, he rose to the position of Ghana's Speaker of Parliament, the second in the Fourth Republic. This gathering unites Africa around a shared mission to uphold the rule of law, defend human rights, and ensure that justice remains the bedrock of our continent's progress. The theme, foreign justice in foreign interest in Africa, exploitation or investment, invites sober reflection on how we can engage the world, starting from within Africa. Across Africa's history, foreign involvement has carried both promise and peril. The challenge before us is not merely economic, but moral and legal. How to protect Africa's resources, rights, and dignity while welcoming fair and transformative investment. We must seize the opportunity to reform our legal systems, strengthen judicial independence, and promote accountability. As lawyers, our duty is not to assign blame, but to build bridges between investors and communities, between governments and citizens, ensuring that partnerships are shaped by dignity, not desperation. It is interesting that the conference with such a theme is being held in Accra, Ghana. May we remind you that on March 6, 1957, Ghana made history as the first African nation south of the Sahara to gain independence. The purpose of that was to free ourselves economically. The fact that we are discussing this topic means that there is more to be done. Today, Africa has taken a monumental step forward by signing the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. It is now incumbent upon us as lawyers to champion this cause and ensure it is fully and effectively implemented for the benefit of all Africans. In this spirit, Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, offers both vision and direction, a call to build an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful continent driven by its own citizens. This vision must guide our laws, policies, and professional ethics. Africa's story must be written by Africans, grounded in strong institutions and unwavering respect for sovereignty. Beyond the conference sessions, we encourage you to explore Ghana's rich culture and historical landscape. Begin your journey at the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum, which stands in tribute to the visionary who secured Ghana's freedom at a time when no African country in the sub-region had gained its independence, lighting a torch of liberation that will ultimately spread across our continent. From there, we invite you to experience the profound history of our castles and forts, savor the authentic taste of our local cuisines, like the legendary jollof, and feel the unifying passion for football that captivates our nation. Above all, we hope you would feel the genuine warmth of our proverbial African hospitality. Let this conference be a forum for reflection, renewal, and resolve, where we speak frankly, listen deeply, and act decisively for justice and development. Our greatest wealth lies not beneath our soul, but within our people, their intellect, resilience, and creativity. On behalf of the Ghana Bar Association and the good people of Ghana, I wish to thank the leadership of AFBA, Mr. Chair, Dr. Hannibal Igbe, Wafu, SAN, President High Chief Ibrahim Edimak, and the Vice President Rudolph Ezeni, as well as the steering committee and the entire team, not forgetting Ghana's local organizing committee. You have collectively made this conference possible. Once again, you're all welcome. And to our Francophone brothers and sisters, bienvenue. May the AFBA torch burn brightly, and not just for our generation, but as a legacy for the next generation. We should witness a proud, peaceful, purpose-driven continent under God, flourishing and upholding the true tenets of democracy and the rule of law, making it a destination of choice for all. God bless us all, and may we have a fruitful conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Please keep acknowledging our President of the Ghana Bar Association. If we say the African Bar is the fearless voice of the legal profession, you can rest assured that Madam President has and carries that voice in our republic. Well, she said that your welcome starts from the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum, but I'm sure you have started right here in the Labadi Beach Hotel, tasting and devouring Ghana jollof. We do not need you to write any thesis about it, because we know after eating it, you'll forget that there is any debate about where to get the most delicious jollof. The jollof that works miracles in the lives of people. It's right here in Ghana. Thank you. Our king is here, so there's no disputes. I'm looking around and I've just seen in our midst, if you haven't seen the president certainly is here. Deputy Chief of Staff, Nana Oye Bampoado, thank you very much for being here with us. My Lords, Justice Dogu, Justice Anochi Jima. Of course, I've acknowledged the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice of the Republic. We certainly cannot miss the presence of the former President of the Bar, former MP, former Council of State member, Sam Okujeto. And as I understand, I've seen also past presidents of the Ghana Bar right here in this place. Let me say a warm welcome to also to MFR Hardcastle. Thank you very much for being here. These are lawyers who are making us proud in the governance of the Republic. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to welcome the President of the African Bar Association, High Chief Ibrahim Edimak, to speak to us. His speech will be flawless for one simple reason. He's had very good jollof.
I acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Chief of Staff, which shows that the presidency is here. I welcome you. I acknowledge the presence of the Chief Justice of Ghana, who, from the time we came here in April, has always stood by us and gave us his word that he will be here, and he's here. I acknowledge the presence of the Attorney General of Ghana, Dr. Dominic Ayene, a very good man. We came, he could not see us. He now invited us to come, that he was sorry, he was very busy, and we came. And he is one of the success of this program we are having in Ghana. I acknowledge the presence of Isaac Lelona, Justice Supreme Court of Kenya, representing the Chief Justice of Kenya. I acknowledge the presence of Fernandez Marcos Obiene, representing the Attorney General of the Federation of Nigeria. I also acknowledge the presence of Justice Miacha Maria Cabo, a judge of the International Criminal Court. I acknowledge the presence of Professor Lennox Hines, representing the President of International Association of Democratic Lawyers, one of our viable partners. I also acknowledge the presence of Sir Jeffrey, representing the National Conference of Black Lawyers, whose president, Whitley Carpenter, is not around. He is representing that association. You are most welcome. I acknowledge the presence of Honorable Claudio Ricardo Monchero Congaves, President ECOWAS Court of Justice, and also Kuroma, his Vice President. Both of you are here. I acknowledge the presence of His Royal Majesty, King Taki Teiko Surutu, Gamanse, and President of the Ga Traditional Council, Accra. I acknowledge the presence of Mazi Afam Osigwe, the President, Nigerian Bar Association. May I also acknowledge the presence of the service commanders that are here. I also acknowledge the presence of the members of the diplomatic corps that are here, and also, valuably, the presence of the keynote speaker, though in a representative capacity. The keynote speaker was to be here, but he has some health challenges. I think he's undergoing surgery in America today. Maybe we'll have him in prayers, but he has been able to send his paper to a rep here in Ghana to do justice to the subject. I also acknowledge the AFBA executive and council that are here, because without them, me alone cannot do the job. Now to my address. Distinguished colleagues, eminent guests, learned friends, esteemed delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor and humility that I welcome you to the 2025 Annual Conference of African Bar Association. This gathering provides us once again the unique opportunity to reflect, interrogate, and engage on issues that profoundly affect our continent, our people, and indeed our future. Our choosing theme for this year, foreign interest in Africa, investment or exploitation. It is not only timely, but deeply compelling. Africa stands today at a crossroad. On the one hand, we are courted as the last frontier of global economic growth, endowed with vast natural and human resources. On the other, we continue to grapple with questions of sovereignty, dignity, equity, and justice in our dealings with the outside world. Foreign investment or modern exploitation. We must ask ourselves, do foreign investment truly build African economies, or do they entrench dependence and exploitation? The exploitation of our minerals, oil, gas, and even agricultural products often leaves behind environmental degradation, poor wages, and shattered communities. True partnership must be built on fairness, respect for local laws, and genuine value addition within Africa. Security and travel restrictions. Equally, we cannot ignore the security challenges across our continent: terrorism, piracy, transnational crime, and instability, which are sometimes exacerbated by foreign interference. Added to this are discriminatory visa regimes and travel restrictions that make movement within and outside Africa a Herculean task for our professionals, business people, and students. Africa must advocate for reciprocal treatment in global travel and call for policies that do not criminalize or stigmatize African identity. Intra-African trade and migration. The African continental free trade remains a beacon of hope, yet it cannot thrive while artificial barriers remain. Migration within Africa must be seen not as a threat, but as a strength. Our people have always moved, traded, and shared knowledge across borders. Let us modernize our travel policy to reflect this reality. Transportation, sea, air, and land. Our connectivity, whether by sea, air, or land, remains weak compared to our potential. Foreign airlines dominate our skies, while African carriers struggle to survive. Our ports are largely controlled by foreign entities, dictating trade terms that disadvantage our economies. We must invest in our own transportation networks and demand fairness in global maritime and aviation regulations. Labor and fair wages. Too many African workers labor under poor and unfair conditions, be it in mines, farms, or factories, under foreign-managed enterprises. This is unacceptable. Economic partnership must translate into fair wages, decent work conditions, and respect for labor rights. The African Bar Association will continue to champion legal frameworks that protect workers' dignity. Sports and youth development. We must also remember that foreign interests extend beyond economics into culture and sports. Our young talents, footballers, athletes, creative, are too often exploited abroad without adequate protection. Africa must build stronger institutions to manage sports, protect our athletes, and ensure that their success benefit their families and communities back home. The lion is not known by stories others tell, but by the roar it makes itself. We must protect and empower our youth to roar for Africa. AES states. African Bar Association firmly believes that AES states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger has to return to the economic community of West African states. The region's strength lies in unity, cooperation, and shared development. No challenge, however serious, should divide or separate members permanently. While the grievances that led to their withdrawal, including issues of governance, justice, and mutual respect, must be honestly addressed, isolation is not the answer. Dialogue, reform, and reconciliation are. A united ECOWAS is essential for collective security, regional trade, the free movement of people, and the defense of democracy and the rule of law. Fragmentation only weakens ECOWAS' position globally and hampers African integration under the AFTA. The African Bar Association calls for genuine engagement, humility, and compromise from all sides. West Africa must stand as one family again, stronger, fairer, and more united. Visa-free trade travel for Africans. The time has come for Africa to remove the artificial barriers that separate its own people. The African Bar Association calls for visa-free travel across the continent for holders of African passports. Freedom of movement is not a privilege, It is a right and a necessity for building the Africa we envision. The African Continental Free Trade, the African Union Agenda 2063, and the ECOWAS protocols all rest on the principle of integration. But integration cannot exist when Africans still need visas to visit their brothers and sisters next door. Visa restrictions hinder trade, education, tourism, cultural exchange, and regional cooperation. They also send the wrong signal that Africa is still divided by colonial-era borders and mistrust. A visa-free Africa would, 1, boost intra-Africa trade and investment. 2, strengthen cultural and professional exchange. 3, encourage regional tourism and transport development. 4, enhance continental solidarity and peace. The African Bar Association therefore urges African leaders and regional blocs to implement a single African visa policy, starting with mutual visa waivers for all African Union members. Through independence, increase the freedom for Africans to move, work, and live anywhere in Africa without restriction. The role of African Bar Association. Colleagues, distinguished guests, the African Bar Association stands at the forefront of this struggle. As lawyers, we are defenders of justice, custodians of rights, and voices for the voiceless. We must interrogate exploitative contracts, challenge unfair trade agreements, and ensure that Africa engages with the world from a position of dignity, sovereignty, and strength. In conclusion, let this conference be more than a meeting of minds. Let it be a rallying call to action, to transform foreign interests from instruments of exploitation into engines of genuine investment, development, and empowerment for Africa and her people. As one African proverb says, when the roots are deep, there is no reason to fear the wind. The time has come for Africa to dig deep into our own strength and negotiate from a position of dignity. I must profoundly welcome delegates and our esteemed guests to Accra, Ghana, a leading country in Africa with rich history of a respectable home for all. This conference promises to meet the expectation of the attendees to the well-known hospitality of the people of Ghana. I thank you all for your presence, your dedication, and your commitment to the noble ideas of justice and progress for Africa. Thank you.
Please continue acknowledging the President. So, once again, when you hear that the African Bar is the fearless voice of the legal profession, he carries it and is representing it. So many of the things he speaks about, all the barriers, artificial, need to be cleared for Africa's truer emancipation. Thank you very much once again, Mr. President, High Chief Ibrahim Edimark. Ladies and gentlemen, we will shortly hear from the Honorable Acting Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. But before we do that, we will have a brief musical interlude. And may I please call on the Okromansa dance group to treat us to some great traditional tunes. Thank you, the Okromansa Dance Group. Thank you very much. I'm sure that His Royal Majesty is happy that you are reflecting Ghana's tradition in the very best way. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to have goodwill messages, and we will wish that if you are coming up for a goodwill message, you would be as brief as a minute or two. We have a situation and we need you respectfully to help us to beat the time. So we will first invite the Vice President of the ECOWAS Court of Justice, the representative. Okay. Sorry, but my attention has been drawn to a correction I need to make. So we will presently have a representative of the Family Watch, who are our proud partners for today, a representative of the Family Watch International, in the person of His Excellency Ambassador Mohammed Omar. Please, let's welcome him with a round of applause. Keep clapping until he gets here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, with all titles reserved. I will be very brief, hopefully. Family Watch International extends its warmest gratitude and heartfelt congratulations to the African Bar Association on the occasion of its 2025 conference held under the inspiring theme, Foreign Interest in Africa, Exploitation or Investment. It may be useful that this August gathering to share my experience of service in two major multilateral settings, Geneva and New York, where I served as a diplomat and ambassador for 14 years. I have witnessed firsthand how foreign interests exert pressure on African diplomats even as they strive to faithfully represent their peoples and governments. This pressure, I would like to bring this to your kind attention, manifests through conventions, agreements, resolutions, and decisions taken across various UN mechanisms, including the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. African permanent representatives and diplomats are in urgent need of stronger support from their home governments. I would like to bring this plea to you. A sustained follow-up from ministers of foreign affairs is indispensable and is badly needed. Foreign interest adverse to Africa increasingly finds their way into international, regional, and even municipal legal instruments. African diplomats who once were collectively to uphold common positions in negotiations are now, in many instances, acting alone, abstaining in resolutions, decisions, has for some become an option of convenience rather than one of informed judgment. We salute AFBA for its unwavering commitment to safeguarding Africa's sovereignty and values amid growing global pressure. We recall with deep admiration the courageous stance AFBA took at its 2021 conference in Niger when it prophetically warned African states about the disconnecting provisions of what has now become the Samoa Agreement of 2023. That historic moment reaffirmed AFBA has more authority as conscious of the African fraternity. Unfortunately, those countries had to exercise caution. Now find themselves bound in an unjust arrangements which the 27-member EU bloc negotiates with or coerce individual African, Caribbean, and Pacific states. The unity of the organization of ACP states is at stake. Yet, AFBA had warned that this would happen. We further commend AFBA for its consistent and principled intervention in the ongoing deliberations around AU Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, ensuring that Africa's laws and policies remain rooted in authentic cultural and moral foundation. Since 2023, AFBA has also been instrumental in convening the Interparliamentary Conference on Sovereignty and Values held for 3 consecutive years in Uganda and is scheduled to take place here in Ghana in 2026. This initiative is highly commendable as it seems to reassert power of the people by directly engaging their representatives across the continent. At this year's conference, AFBA has organized sessions of great relevance to our shared mission. We encourage all participants to attend the following sessions. The first on Wednesday, 22nd at 11 a.m., a session exploring the journey toward an African Charter on Sovereignty and Values, guiding diplomats and technocrats on how to engage with issues central to African sovereignty. The second session will be on the same day, Wednesday, 22nd at 2 p.m., a session organized by the Family Law Committee critically examining the AU Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Children. Wednesday, 22nd at 4 o'clock, a session organized by the Health Law Committee discussing foreign interest in Africa healthcare sector. We urge all participants to attend these sessions and benefit from their rich deliberations. Family Watch International remains a steadfast partner in advancing AFBA's vision through continued collaboration with the African Interparliamentary Conference on Sovereignty and Values, who are working together to protect the African family and preserve the continent's moral and legal sovereignty. We are happy that hands are joined for the well-being of Africa, and we urge the African governments to review the position of their diplomats in multilateral venues in New York and Geneva to better reflect the values, the cultural values of the African people based on respecting the family, which is now at an imminent danger. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Ambassador Mohamed Omar, for the Family Watch International, and thank you to Family Watch International for what you do and the support to the African Bar. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I will invite, as we have on the program lined up, the representative of the International Association of Democratic Lawyers, the National Conference of Black Lawyers, the representative of the Attorney General of Nigeria. I will invite all the representatives to come forward and to make your statements as much as possible within 2 minutes. We will begin with the Vice President of the ECOWAS Court of Justice, the Honorable Judge Shegu Mohammed Koroma. Please, a round of applause for him. And we are excited also that the President of the Court is here with us.
You asked a lawyer to speak for 2 minutes. With due respect to all previously acknowledged protocols, I say good morning to you all. It is an honor and privilege to deliver these brief remarks on behalf of the Honorable President of the Community Court of Justice, ECOWAS, who is in our midst and conveys his warm greetings and solidarity to the African Bar Association. Acknowledgement of AFBA's role. Allow me to commend the African Bar Association for its consistent leadership as the foremost platform for lawyers and jurists across our continent. Over the years, the association has provided a vital space for dialogue on the rule of law, human rights, good governance, and social justice, values that resonate deeply with ECOWAS Court of Justice. From Harare to Nairobi, from Pretoria to Lusaka, and now to Accra, these annual conferences have continued to provoke reflection on the challenges and opportunities facing our continent. This year's theme, quote, foreign interest in Africa, exploitative or investment, is both timely and profound. The theme in context. Africa stands at the crossroads of vast potential and enduring vulnerability. Foreign investment, which aligned with genuine partnership, can catalyze innovation, technology, transfer, job creation, and sustainable growth. But when driven by unequal power relations or unchecked resource extraction, it risks deepening dependency and overwhelming and undermining sovereignty. This duality between exploitation and investment underscores the urgent need for government systems that are transparent, accountable, and rooted in the rule of law. It is only through strong legal frameworks, independent judiciaries, and an empowered civil society that we can ensure that Africa's wealth benefits its people. The ECOWAS Court of Justice, established under the revised treaty and its supplementary protocols, serves as the judicial organ of ECOWAS, ensuring adherence to law and justice in the interpretation and application of ECOWAS instruments. In several decisions, the court has addressed issues of access to justice, fair trial, freedom of expression, and environmental protection, matters deeply connected to how both domestic and foreign investment impact the lives of ordinary West Africans. As Africa pursues the African Continental Free Trade Area and seeks deeper cooperation with global investors, we must ensure that our legal regimes protect local communities, uphold labor and environmental standards, and secure the fair distribution of benefits from Africa's abundant resources. A call to the legal profession, and this is particularly important. To lawyers and judges, scholars and advocates, the future of Africa's development depends in large measure on how faithfully we uphold justice and how courageously we defend the rule of law. It is not enough to welcome investment. We must insist that it is lawful, ethical, and sustainable. It is not enough to condemn exploitation. We must build institutions strong enough to prevent it. Conclusion. On behalf of the Honorable President of the ECOWAS Court, I congratulate the African Bar Association for convening yet another successful conference. The court remains open to collaboration with the African Bar and all stakeholders committed to advancing justice, rule of law, and regional integration across Africa. May our deliberations here in Accra rekindle our shared determination to transform foreign interest in Africa from history of exploitation into a future of genuine partnership and investment in our people. Thank you for your kind attention. God bless the African Bar Association. God bless Africa. Within time also.
Thank you very much. We will right away also invite the representative of the Attorney General of Nigeria to give us his message in 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for him.
Your Lordship, the Acting Chief Justice of Ghana, kindly permit me to stand on existing protocol. I had a relatively detailed speech to read, but I would try, because I'm given 2 minutes, to abridge that version. I have to apologize on behalf of the Attorney General of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He really wanted to be here. In fact, we spent about 3 hours trying to do mathematics on his travel arrangements to ensure that he made it here. Unfortunately, he couldn't. So again, I'm going to do an abridged version of his speech. I'm always delighted to return to Accra because Ghana and Nigeria share more than geography. We share deep historical, cultural, and professional bonds. Our people have traded, studied, and lived together for generations. We have shared both rivalry and friendship in sports, music, politics, and even food. Yet our destinies remain closely linked. The legal profession has long connected us. Many Ghanaian legal practitioners trained in Nigeria and many Nigerian jurists have over time drawn inspiration from Ghana's early constitutional and judicial reforms. Each visit to Accra feels like a visit to a family, and that sense of fraternity strengthens our collective commitment to building a just and prosperous Africa. Now, given the theme of this conference, and I'd like to reference the speech that was made by the president of the Ghana Bar Association, there could hardly have been a more fitting venue. Accra is not just a city of beauty and history, it's a city that symbolizes the dawn of African self-determination. It was here that the critical foundations of constitutional governance in post-colonial Africa were laid in the mid-20th century. It was in this city that early African legal practitioners such as Sir Henley and others helped to shape the Gold Coast legal system in the years leading to independence. Accra also witnessed in 1948 the march by unarmed ex-servicemen who demanded fair treatment and pensions after serving in the Second World War. The tragic events that followed this protest or march sparked other protests, which became a turning point in the country's path towards independence in 1957, with Ghana becoming the first sub-Saharan African nation to achieve independence through constitutional means. That victory, won through courage, justice, and conviction, inspired liberation movements across the continent. In choosing Accra, the AFBA reminds us that the struggle for justice is not new. It is woven into the very fabric of African history. Now, this reminder is very timely because the theme of this year's conference, Foreign Investments in Africa, Exploitation or Investment, calls us once again to examine the balance between opportunity and sovereignty. Africa remains a continent rich in natural resources and human resources as well. Yet our wealth has far too often been managed in ways that weaken rather than empower us. The inflow of foreign capital into mining, energy, agriculture, and technology has opened new frontiers for development, but also exposed gaps in our laws and institutions. It is in closing these gaps that the future of our continent will be decided. Now, I can see the person that's standing beside me, so I just have to rush. I have listened to the statement by the president of the African Bar Association, and I align completely with his statement on what we need to do, the steps that need to be taken. I appreciate the African Bar Association. I just need to make a point, which is that not too long ago I was in China, and I met a few Africans from different countries, Sudan, etc. And it was noted that almost every time we meet each other, we are meeting on foreign soil. That Africans, rather than meet in Africa, tend to meet elsewhere because we have programs anywhere. This underscores the problem with our intra-African travel, cooperations, etc. In many cases, it's easier to do business outside of Africa than to do within Africa. It's easier to travel outside of Africa than travel within Africa. So I appreciate the African Bar Association for opportunities like this for us to meet within Africa and to discuss African problems and African issues and to find solutions to them. God bless the African Bar Association and God bless Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And at this juncture, I wish to sincerely apologize that we will put on hold the remarks that we're taking from the various, friends who are here, various partners who are here, because a situation we currently face demands so. But we certainly will have a seamless program. We want to thank you for your patience. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado at this juncture, kindly help me welcome the Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice of the Republic of Ghana, Dr. Dominic Akrutinga Ayine. I have to be careful I don't get the way of oral.
His Majesty King Ni Taki Churu Gamanche, the Honorable Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, my lords temporal and spiritual, the President of the Ghana Bar Association, the Deputy Chief of Staff and representative of the President of the Republic of Ghana, my brother Ibrahim, President of the African Bar Association, and all your executives. Ladies and gentlemen, when my brother was acknowledging the contribution that the Attorney General's Department has made to this conference, he omitted to give details. And I want to take the liberty to announce that on behalf of the Attorney General's Department, I personally made available 30,000 United States of American dollars for 100 young lawyers to attend this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by welcoming you to Ghana and to Accra, our beautiful capital city, the gateway to Africa. I deem it a great honor and a privilege to stand before this distinguished gathering of legal minds from across our beautiful continent. You are the custodians of the law, defenders of justice, and advocates for Africa's sovereign destiny. I thank the African Bar Association for convening this important dialogue on the theme that cuts through the very core of our collective future: foreign interests in Africa, exploitation, or investment. As someone who taught international trade and investment law to students at the University of Ghana School of Law for over a decade, the theme of this conference brings back memories of my engagement in discourse with students over pertinent issues about the political economy of foreign investment in Africa. Today, I will spare you an academic exegesis on the question whether and the extent to which foreign interests in Africa constitute investment or exploitation. Instead, I will try to suppress the academic in me and dwell on the practical, or if you want, the real politic of foreign interests in Africa. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Africa today stands at a historic crossroads. We are a continent endowed with immeasurable wealth: oil beneath our soil, gold within our rocks, fertile lands stretching across the equator, and above all, the ingenuity and resilience of our citizens. And yet, too often, and through no fault of our peoples, these blessings have been converted into burdens. The specter of a continent rich in natural resources, natural and human resources, and yet perceived and treated as the poorest continent on earth, remains one of the key paradoxes discussed by Kenyan academic Ali Mazrui in his book, The African Condition. For centuries, foreign interests have long played a decisive role in the story of our continent. From the grim pages of colonial misrule to the more subtle but equally consequential chapters of neo-colonial economic interactions between African countries and former colonial powers and their private sectors. So the question we confront today is not merely academic. When foreign capital flows into Africa in the name of investment, is it a partner in our progress or a participant in our continued exploitation? Note that in a literal sense, in some sectors of the economy, such as the natural resource sectors, one must invest in order to exploit. In that sense, investment and exploitation are mutually reinforcing. But that is not the understanding which our conference team conveys today. The team seeks to explore whether foreign capital has vampire tendencies, a one-sided relationship in which one party derives benefits from the other without any positive benefits accruing to the other party. My learned friends, for those of us in the legal profession, this question cannot be approached through sentiment alone. We must interrogate it through the lens of the law and economic justice. Our constitutions, our investment codes, our mining and petroleum laws, all seek to strike a delicate balance between welcoming foreign capital and protecting national interests. And we lawyers, whether as judges, public sector attorneys, private legal practitioners, are entrusted with the sacred duty of ensuring that our country strike that balance. We draft the laws and interpret and apply them in the real world context to regulate foreign capital flows. As private legal practitioners, we represent foreign interests across negotiating tables and before courts and tribunals where disputes arise. But too often, the history of foreign investment in Africa is replete with harrowing stories of failure and exploitation, often attributable to several factors. First, we find ourselves constantly outmatched at the negotiating table by well-prepared teams of experts hired by foreign investors. To give but one example, during the Doha round of trade negotiations, the negotiating team of the United States of America consisted of more than 250 trade and investment experts, including lawyers, economists, and financial analysts. The Ghanaian team at the time consisted of the trade minister and less than 10 civil servants from the Ministry of Trade. Second, contracts written in foreign capitals become the instruments through which our resources are siphoned, and dispute clauses defer justice to arbitral tribunals far removed from the realities of our economies, leading to exorbitant costs of dispute resolution. Third, there's also the challenge of asserting state regulatory power in the face of investor protection regimes fortified by poorly negotiated bilateral investment treaties. These treaties, some carried over from the days of colonial rule, are often lopsided in according protection to foreign investors against state interference in investment activities, whilst neglecting to take account of the deleterious effects of such activities on the national economy and on society as a whole. And lastly, Africa has, in some instances, surrendered too much in the name of creating a conducive investment climate. We have granted tax holidays that impoverish our national treasuries, stabilization clauses that hamstring our parliaments, and concessions that mortgage future generations. This, ladies and gentlemen, is not investment. It is a sophisticated form of economic extraction, cloaked in legality, endorsed by contracts, and enforced by international arbitration. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, but it need not be so. Not all foreign interest is exploitative. Indeed, Africa needs genuine investment, capital that builds factories, transfers technology, respects labor, and uplifts communities. Our challenge, therefore, is not to reject foreign investment, but to redefine the terms of engagement. Investment must be mutually beneficial. It must respect the principle of sovereign equality under international law. It must contribute to value addition within Africa, not merely to the extraction of raw materials for export. And here lies the role of the African Bar Association and its members. We, as lawyers, are the architects of Africans' legal destiny. We draft the contracts. We advise governments. We sit in the boardrooms and at the arbitration tables. Our duty is to ensure that the instruments of law serve not as chains of dependency, but as tools of liberation. We must build the capacity of African states to negotiate better deals. We must develop continental arbitration institutions with the credibility and expertise to resolve investment disputes locally. We must harmonize our laws under the framework of the African Continental Free Trade Area so that Africa speaks with one voice in trade and investment matters. Ladies and gentlemen, the world is entering a new scramble for Africa. This time for our lithium, our cobalt, our green energy minerals, and even our data. If we do not act strategically, history will repeat itself, not with chains and ships, but with contracts and clauses. Africa must therefore pursue strategic Africanism, a new doctrine of continental assertiveness rooted in the partnership, mutual respect, and the rule of law. And I cannot end this speech without addressing the elephant in the room when it comes to the issue of foreign investment in Africa, and that is the issue of political corruption. In 2015, in my capacity as Deputy Attorney General, I led a team to negotiate an electrification contract with a large Chinese conglomerate. In the process, I met with a high-ranking official of the China Railway Corporation and took him aside for a conversation about building railway infrastructure in Ghana. I asked him how much it will cost and how long it will take to build a railway line spanning 850 kilometers. That is the distance from Accra to my hometown. He told me it will take roughly $3.5 billion, that is United States of American dollars, and about 3 years to complete. He then added candidly, but our problem in Africa, I'm quoting him, is paying 10% of that amount upfront in bribes to public officials. I assured him that we, as a government, would behave differently. The question whether he believed me is one for the gods. There is no gainsaying that corruption drives away foreign investment and also reinforces the exploitative tendencies of foreign capital. The evidence is not anecdotal, it is real. As lawyers, we must play a crucial role in fighting political corruption and, in the process, minimizing or eliminating altogether its negative effects on foreign investment. As private legal practitioners, we must advise our clients against paying bribes to secure investment deals. And as public sector lawyers, we must advise the political class against receiving bribes from foreign investors and must prosecute those who do not heed this advice. Having said that, I've always held the view that the return to $1 of investment does not depend on the moral source of the money. All things being equal, funds obtained from corruption will yield the same dividends as those obtained from legitimate means. So those who happen to get away with corruption in Africa should consider investing the proceeds of corruption in Africa instead of saving it in foreign banks. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, the question, exploitation or investment, is not one that foreigners alone must answer. It is a question for us, African and African lawyers, to answer through our policies, our legal systems, and our unity of purpose. If we are vigilant, informed, and united, foreign interests will become a catalyst for our transformation. If we are complacent, divided, ill-prepared for negotiations, it will remain the instrument of our exploitation. Let us therefore commit ourselves as African lawyers to build a continent where investment uplifts and empowers, where law protects the weak and restrains the powerful, and where Africa finally owns its destiny, legally, economically, and morally. I thank you and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Ghana. Shall we please put our hands together once again for him? That was a moving speech with a lot to think about our continent. Rich, yet described poor for what exactly it presently is. So, if I'm running away from getting in the way of oral because I'm afraid of jail, then I should equally be careful that I don't lose my license. Only 15 years. If I lose it, how will I feed my family? Let me acknowledge the presence of the Judicial Secretary, Musa Ahmed. Thank you very much for being here in our presence. Of course, we also have here a former Attorney General, former Second Deputy Speaker of the Parliament of Ghana, and former Minister, Railways Development, the Honorable Joe Gatti. Thanks for being around, sir. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if Oral decided to do anything against me, I need some good security. I want to, at this juncture, invite His Lordship, the Honorable Justice Paul Bafuboni, Acting Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. He will address the conference and he will also open the conference. Please, let's put our hands together for him.
His Royal Majesty, the Government Chair, the Deputy Chief of Staff, Nana Oye Bampo Ado, representing the Head of State of the Republic of Ghana, the Honorable Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya and Justice for African Nations, the Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Justice, the President of the Ghana Bar Association, my Lord, Justices of the Superior Court and of Judicature here present, the President and Council of the African Bar Association, distinguished members of the Bar and Bench, esteemed colleagues, scholars, students, and friends of Africa. On behalf of the judiciary and the people of Ghana, I extend to you a heartfelt welcome to Accra, the city of warmth, of rhythm, of hospitality, and of the enduring spirit of Pan-African unity. The Ghana Bar, and indeed the Ghanaian people, are deeply honored to host this distinguished gathering of Africa's legal minds. In this city, both history and hope intertwine. Here in Accra, the call for Africa's freedom once rang out to the world. And today, as we gather under the theme, Foreign Investment in Africa, Investment or Exploitation. That call echoes again, this time for economic and intellectual liberation. Distinguished men and women of the Bar and Bench, when we speak of foreign interest in Africa, we do not allude to a simple or singular phenomenon that can be neatly unpacked in the space, in a span of a classroom lecture. Rather, we confront a vast and complex web, a living tapestry of influence and dependency, whose threads are interwoven into nearly every sphere of our existence. It manifests in our governance and policy choices, where international actors, through subtle persuasion or overt pressure, steer our priorities and chart the contours of our legal and institutional reforms. It is evident in the extraction of our natural resources, where concession agreements too often enrich the few and impoverish the many, leaving our lands barren even as others prosper from their bounty. And that is not all. It echoes through our economies, where structural dependencies and conditionalities are woven so tightly that the very fabric of our individual sovereign will is strained. It also lurks even within our security arrangements, where foreign-based foreign bases, advisors and partners influence our national agenda under the reassuring guise of cooperation. According to the African Union and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, at the start of this century, Africa consistently lost between 50 and 60 billion US dollars every year through illicit financial flows alone. That is profits hidden, mispriced, or smuggled out through trade manipulation and tax avoidance. Over the last 50 years, it is estimated that over $1 trillion has been illicitly strained from the continent, roughly equal to all the development aid Africa received in the same period. Fellow Africans, our continent remains the richest in resources. We hold 30% of the world's minerals, 40% of gold, 60% of cobalt, and 90% of platinum. And let me add that we produce 12% of global oil and possess vast reserves of arable land and sunlight. Yet, paradoxically, we are still called poor. While others govern their resources, we continue to merely harness ours, allowing others to decide their value, control their pricing, and benefit from their proceeds. The message is simple. It is not exploitation alone that impoverishes us. It is misgovernance. It is not lack of wealth. It is lack of will. To govern resources is to encourage them, to manage them with justice, equity, and foresight, to ensure that the soil serves the soul and that the nation's endowments become its children's inheritance and not their curse. We must begin immediately to reimagine the role of law in Africa's development. As we say, the law is not merely an instrument of order, it is the architecture of justice, and justice is the foundation of sovereignty. Our constitutions, such as Ghana's, recognize that the natural resources of the nation are the property of the people, held in trust by the President of Ghana. Ghana's held in trust by the President. Ghana's 2011 Constitution Review Committee was clear. Foreign leaseholds should not exceed 50 years, and joint ownership with foreigners must respect Ghanaian law. This trust doctrine, that sovereignty over resources resides in the people, must be defended not just as a rhetoric, but as a hard rule. For if we surrender our power to legislate in our own interests, we surrender the essence of independence itself. What then must we do, distinguished ladies and gentlemen? I have a few suggestions, and forgive me if they come across as drastic or far-reaching. The problem itself has shown no mercy. So too must the solutions. First, we must take control of our resources and stop the leakage. We cannot develop when more wealth leaves our shores each year than enters through trade and aid combined. Second, we must reform our institutions of negotiations. Those who negotiate for Africa must be armed not only with contracts, but with conscience. Third, we must insist on transparency, accountability, and local participation in all extractive agreements. Our people must not be mere spectators in their own dispossession. Fourth, we must invest in our intellectual sovereignty, producing our own knowledge, our own legal minds, and our own economic frameworks. As Nkrumah reminded us in Berlin in 1961, Africa once had universities that attracted scholars from Asia and Europe. We must reclaim that intellectual heritage. Fifth, we must trade more among ourselves. And this is important. We must trade more among ourselves. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AFTA, whose secretariat proudly stands here in Africa, is not merely a bureaucratic creation. It is Africa's grand opportunity to turn our fragmented markets into a single powerful economy of 1.4 billion people. If we can trade cocoa for machinery, energy for technology, ideas for innovation, we shall no longer need to plead for what we can produce. AFTA represents the second wave of independence, economic independence through African cooperation. Finally, we must practice smart diplomacy, engaging with the world not as beggars, but as partners, diversifying alliances, and ensuring that every handshake leaves both hands equally full. In Ghana, the recent establishment of a gold board represents a hopeful example of how deliberate policy can reclaim control over a vital sector. By coordinating the gold trade and ensuring that proceeds flow through national systems, Ghana has already seen improvements in foreign exchange earnings, as has been reported by the government. Yet, even here, we must tread carefully. For every promise of prosperity comes with the peril of pollution. Every ounce of gold extracted must not come at the cost of poisoned rivers and barren soil. The true wealth of Africa must be measured not only in minerals, but in the dignity of its people and the health of its land. Conclusion. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, the question, foreign interest in Africa, investment or exploitation, cannot be answered by statistics alone. It must be answered by conscience, by courage, and by collective will. If we continue in our current path, negotiating blindly, governing weakly, and thinking narrowly, we shall remain the richest beggars on earth. But if we reclaim our agency, reform our laws, and govern our wealth with justice, Africa shall rise not as a quarry for others to mine, but as a continent that defines its own destiny. Let us therefore heed the wisdom of Nelson Mandela when he said, quote, "Where globalization means that the riches of the few nations are shared by all, then it can be welcomed. But where it means that the fruits of the progress belong only to the powerful, then it must be rejected," end quote. May this conference mark not just another dialogue, but the dawn of a new jurisprudence, one that binds law to justice, investment to equity, and develop to the dignity of our people. For in the end, the law is not foreign. It is ours to break, ours to defend, and ours to wield for the freedom and flourishing of Africa. On that note, I formally declare the 2025 Annual African Bar Association Conference formally open. Thank you, and may God bless our continent, our bar, and our shared pursuit of justice.
Please, a round of applause for my Lord. And we would like to invite the President of the African Bar to come up to do this quickly for us. Would also want the Attorney General, Dominic Ayine, to join us, please.
I want to say thank you with this appreciation plaque to the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice of Ghana. I want also to thank you for this appreciation plaque to the Acting Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana for his invaluable, not only that, having time to come here to declare the conference open, even in the face of state matters. That's why he's even making his speech now. He's rushing to the presidency for a meeting. That's why we allowed him to come and do this speech earlier. So we thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for the Honorable Attorney General and the Chief Justice. I want to also acknowledge the presence of Mazi Afam Osigwe, son, President of the Nigerian Bar Association. Sir, thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you very much. Mazi Afam Osigwe, son, President of the Nigerian Bar Association. Of course, you know how Nigeria does it all the time, right? Have you been to an African Bar conference outside of Ghana before? You will always see Nigeria in their millions. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. As announced, His Lordship has to take leave of us, but we are continuing with the program. Thank you all very much. Shall we be upstanding as they file out? And then we will stay. Thank you very much. I also like to recognize the presence of the Ambassador of Algeria, the High Commissioner of Sierra Leone, and the representative of the Democratic Republic, the representative in charge of foreign relations of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue with our program as advertised. And as you can see on the program, we have a few more goodwill messages to take, and then we shall have the keynote address. The keynote address by Professor of Political Economy and Management, Professor Patrick Oki-Denachi Otome. He has an able representative to do that speech for us. His representative, Mr. Bernard Avle, is also here. Please give us a wave. Thank you very much. So shall we continue by asking the representative of the International Association of Democratic Lawyers, International Association of Democratic Lawyers, the representative, Professor Lennox Haynes. Professor Lennox Haynes, thank you very much.
I will be brief because time is short. Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, friends, sisters and brothers, I bring you greetings from Edre Olavia, President of the International Association of Democratic Lawyers, an NGO with consultative status with ECOSOC at the United Nations, and the African Bar Association is an organizational affiliate of the IADL. I personally want to thank the African Bar Association for inviting me here and holding this conference in Ghana, the birthplace of Kwame Nkrumah, the father of Pan-Africanism. It also provides me, a son of Africa, with the opportunity to return to the place where my forefathers and foremothers were among the millions of the victims of the rape of Africa during the slave trade. And it allows me to stand on the shores of where my forefathers were taken in chains and taken to the so-called New World. But for me, the journey took the path of the Caribbean, because I was born in a country called Trinidad and Tobago. So it took me there. And from Trinidad and Tobago, I went to the United States. And from the United States, here I am, back home to where my forefathers came from. But the African Bar Association also provides me with the opportunity to join in our common struggle to break the chains of exploitation in the form of neocolonialism and all of the vestiges of that type of exploitation, and allows me as a lawyer to lend my arm in that struggle, our common struggle for liberation. Now, in that process, I've been the lawyer for the African National Congress. I've been the lawyer for Nelson Mandela in the United States. I've been the lawyer for the ANC and SWAPO of Namibia. And I stand ready, and through the efforts of the African Bar Association, to lend my skills, whatever they may be, as a lawyer, in our common struggle for justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. International human rights lawyer of great repute, representing Nelson Mandela, representing being counsel for the South African government and the African National Congress. Thank you so very much for your presence always at the African Bar conferences. Thank you indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, the time now is for us to invite the National Conference of Black Lawyers, which Prof is an integral part of. But on this occasion, let us welcome Jeffrey Lee Edson. Jeffrey Lee Edson, the official representative.
It is truly an honor and privilege to stand here at this time to greet you on behalf of Whitley Carpenter, the president of the National Conference of Black Lawyers. I stand here as to extend greetings to you, to all the dignitaries, to all the judiciary, to the Nana-Noom, to everyone present. I stand on established protocols also. I stand on behalf of the National Conference of Black Lawyers. The National Conference of Black Lawyers, back in 1968, during a time of the United States government intensive exploitation and repression of African people in the United States, the NCBL birthed itself to become the legal arm of the Black Revolution. And since its birth in 1968, the National Conference of Black Lawyers has extended its work and services not only domestically, locally within the boundaries of the United States, but have expanded its service and work internationally to Africa, as represented by Brother Hines in Southern Africa, in Namibia, but also throughout the Caribbean and Cuba and Grenada. We've established profound relationships to combat against imperialism and Western domination. And so it is within our work that we bring strong expression of Pan-African solidarity with the African Bar Association. We are indeed honored to collaborate with your work here. We have also been honored to accept the work or extend invitation to the leadership of the African Bar Association, previously with Brother Hannibal, who has participated in various programs and conferences at the, of NCBL in the U.S. Brother High Chief Ibrahim Mark has accepted the invitation to participate in NCBL's 57th annual anniversary in Atlanta, Georgia, next month, November 13th through the 16th in Atlanta. So we look forward to having his participation with us there. And we continue to offer our support to the efforts of the African Bar Association. I too, similar to Brother Hines' expression of being a child and son of Africa, having been or being a son of formerly enslaved Africans in the U.S., I stand before you now being a returnee to the continent, specifically here in Ghana, with a home together with my wife in Elmina. So it is indeed an honor to be here, to stand here as a personal tribute. And also, it is interesting and important to know that the theme of this conference, foreign interests in Africa, exploitation or investment, that there is a critical assessment and evaluation of this question that's based on the collective interest of all Africans. We know as Africans in the diaspora that our existence is intertwined with the liberation of Africa. And so we call upon, or we ask that as we engage that question and engage the important analysis of that question, that we truly embrace the spirit of everyone and not limit it to a particular class or group of individuals, but let that analysis reflect the spirit of all Africans. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have goodwill from Big Brother. And I was trying to do, a small research if there was a bar in Africa as big as that in Nigeria. My friends in Nigeria, you didn't respond. What would be the answer to that question? So, ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome Mazi Afam Osegwe, son, President of the Nigerian Bar Association, to give us his goodwill message.
I guess it's afternoon. My watch is still set to Nigerian time. So, good afternoon, everybody. When I listened to the earlier speakers, and I looked at the theme of this conference, I was reminded of the words of Shakespeare, and I think in Julius Caesar. He said, the fault is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. Nobody will exploit us in Africa unless we allow them to. If we do not allow corrupt influence, inferiority complex, self-serving interest, inattentiveness, sending wrong persons to delegations, failing to send good professionals, and persons who are patriotic enough to negotiate for the best interests of our countries, and persons who would not be interested in immediate gratification, we will not be complaining. The interdependence of nations makes it imperative that every country would allow investors to invest in them, be they Africans or non-Africans. But the conversation would center around the type of agreements we enter into with them. And I believe that in having this conversation, we're not here to bemoan our fate, to complain about how foreign investors take advantage of us, but to live here with a better commitment to ensure that the exploitation of the mineral and human resource in Africa will be such as to be mutually beneficial to the parties. Otherwise, this conversation will continue going on, and that even our grandchildren will be faced with the same. Almost all the countries in Africa are independent. And that suggests that we have independence of thought and objectives to achieve that which we want to achieve. But are we ready for that? Are we ready to make the sacrifice to achieve them? Are we ready to think about our national interest to ensure that these things happen? And having said that, I must express my gratitude to have been invited here and to have been asked to give this goodwill message and to say that, and to suggest that we should live here with a greater commitment to ensure that the resources that are abundant in Africa are utilized such that we will move from a third world country to a first world country, that will eradicate corruption and ensure that generations unborn benefit from these vast resources which God has blessed us with. Thank you so very much for giving me these few minutes. God bless all of us.
Thank you, Mazi Afam Osegwe, son president of the Nigerian Bar Association. Your Royal Majesty, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, President Akufo-Addo was associated with the African Bar at the beginning of the African Bar. Just a note of information. And in 2023 in Pretoria, South Africa, where we had the conference, he was duly acknowledged for his pioneering role in the African Bar Association. In a short time, we will be recognizing some distinguished individuals for their contributions in various fields, and also particularly to this Pan-African body of lawyers. But before we do that, we know our keynote speaker is not here because that has been announced earlier. Professor Patrick is unable to be with us today. But his decision is that he has had encounters with a young man and has explored matters of his address with this young man. They had had encounters in the World Trade Organization in Geneva and also here in Accra, Ghana. So he has a worthy representative to deliver the keynote address on his behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Ghanaian journalist and broadcaster. He's an economist, but hides it. Please, let's welcome Bernardino Koku Avle.
Your Royal Majesty, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as the MC rightly said, my job here is to deliver the keynote address on behalf of Professor of Political Economy and Management expert, Professor Patrick Okedinachi Utomi. So I'll proceed and do that straight away. Keynote address at the 2025 Annual Conference of the African Bar Association on Monday, October 20, 2025 at the Labadi Beach Hotel in Accra, Ghana. Foreign interest in Africa, exploitation or investment. I want to begin by thanking the leadership of the African Bar Association for both the choice of topic and venue to discuss this matter, as well as for asking me to be a keynote speaker. I'd like to set up a scheme for my remarks and conversation. First, I'd like to show the wisdom in your topic as it relates to how the law and commerce depend on each other, making the theme appropriate for a continental bar conference. I'll then look at how trade has treated Africa and perhaps the role of law, or the law and lawyers. I'll then look at how colonial intervention has disrupted natural trade development and created conditions of dependency and exploitation, but also opportunities for collaboration and growth. Finally, I would speak to issues of a new consciousness in AFTA and continental development finance institutions becoming the basis of a new narrative on Africa's economic prospects, away from the narrative of Afro-pessimism. Firstly, I'm pleased that this meeting is in Accra, because it was here in 1958 that the legendary Ghanaian leader, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, gathered leaders of emerging Africa to consider their future economic possibilities, just as he was taking counsel from Sir Arthur Lewis, who wrote the document on the industrialization of the Gold Coast and would become the first black man to win the Nobel Prize in Economics. How well have ideas of 1958 propelled forward the economies of Africa, which were soon in debt crisis and compelled to embark on structural adjustment programs that did not deliver on promise. The growing consensus about how man's life advances came about increasingly around institutions. Historians like Neil Ferguson, economists like Oliver Williamson, economic historians such as Douglas North, and political economists like my head of department in graduate school, Elinor Lynn Ostrom, who became the first woman to win the Nobel Prize in Economics, agree that institutions have become critical in separating history's more prosperous from the poorer ones. Two of last year's winners of the Nobel Prize for Economics, Daron Acemoglu and James Robinson, in the book Why Nations Fail, show fitting examples of how the paradigm of institutions and development subsists. There are still competing but related explanations, like the Princeton economist Angus Deaton, who won the 2015 Nobel Prize in Economics for his analysis of consumption, poverty, and welfare, who shows in the book The Great Escape, Health, Wealth, and the Origin of Inequality, that advances in healthcare is a major shift of nations that prosper from those that stay poor and those that focus on how values shape human progress. The latter school is captured in a Harvard colloquium in the late 90s, and the book Culture Matters, which summed up proceedings of the colloquium, the consensus is that institutions do matter. My own work, which focuses majorly on the interdependence of institutions, culture, entrepreneurship and leadership to produce progress from my 1998 book, Managing Uncertainty, to the 2006 book, Why Nations Are Poor, recognize the crucial play of institutions in human advancement. So what are these institutions? They are essentially rules that set boundaries to conduct. And when they become settled habits of a community, these boundaries allow people to evaluate possible outcomes of ventures. Prime among institutions is the rule of law. Commerce does not thrive without the rule of law. Property rights, smart bankruptcy rules, and what the Peruvian economist Hernando de Soto calls representational systems like land registry, which make assets fungible and transition them to access to capital. The poor, De Soto argues, have assets that cannot be collateral security for a loan because they are not listed in a land registry with a market where they can be easily traded. The French laissez-faire parliamentarian Frédéric Bastiat, who wrote the law just before he passed away in 1850, could never have imagined he would gain folk hero status among students of institutions and economic performance. Beyond Bastiat's view of law as codification of power relations and therefore an instrument of oppression, language of agreement have been a basis of cheating between peoples historically. Commercial exchange required trust and precision of interpretation of what was agreed. The more powerful have always used skill in that area to take advantage of the weaker. In the last few years, I have been chairman of PAFTRAC, the Pan-African Private Sector Committee on Trade and Investment. It is a period during which I have reflected much on world trade and development. Africa was in exchange relations with Europe before slavery and colonization. Why did the nature of the relationship change at this stage? How did this continent that fascinated Europeans and explorers who were amazed at the absence of beggars on its streets become attractive for extracting slaves? The answer, the changing means of economic production, which required plantation labor. In the process, one of these slave plantation economies rebelled and became independent. In 1789, that plantation island had the highest per capita income in the world. It would end up the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, unfortunately. Today, Haiti is a basket case. Colonialism followed the onset of the Industrial Revolution, driven by the redesign of the steam engine by Scottish inventor James Watt in the year of American independence. Raw materials were required to feed the factories of Europe, and the Berlin Conference that partitioned Africa was to provide secure access to territories from which to procure cheap raw materials. Even though the intention was exploitative, produce exports provided revenue sources that the moral economy of the peasant would not have generated. Perhaps the biggest harm to African economies was the fragmentation of economies in Africa, with linkages northward to the metropolis center in Europe. The inequality in value adding allowed companies like Nestle to put cocoa from Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Nigeria and make profits far above the three countries put together, have as well revenues from exports of raw materials. It's easy to talk about how Europe underdeveloped Africa, as Walter Rodney eloquently provides evidence of this. But the key for me, ladies and gentlemen, is how we use our knowledge and creativity to achieve a more equitable order. History teaches us that discontent with inequities in the global economic order often resulted in pressures for a North-South dialogue, as exemplified in the 1970s. A summit was agreed for in Cancun, Mexico. Then President Jimmy Carter would lose the 1980 elections. Ronald Reagan then did to the trends on trade what tariff policies of Washington are doing today. So we are not likely to reach negotiated equity in this matter. The creativity of the disadvantaged to escape the system seems to be the only way that has worked. The Southeast Asian miracle was precisely about that. In the book Culture Matters, Samuel Huntington Jr. compares Ghana and Malaysia. just as my friend Peter Lewis of Johns Hopkins does for Nigeria and Indonesia in his book, Growing Apart. In my view, little gain will come from reliving dependency theory, which I called elegant theorizing without redeeming features that show a path out of the trap. I am persuaded that intra-African trade with working groups to break the constrictions to cross-border trade is definitely the way to go. Then there are opportunities to construct new narratives about the treasure at the bottom of the pyramid, and for the elite to see prosperity in aggregation across borders that Agenda 2063 and the AFTA eloquently offer. From the beginning, I introduced Bastia to show how lawyers help build institutions. Now let me compare with some of my own experience. Rajan Nzingils give credit for easier access to capital to what he calls judicial activism, and celebrate a jurist, Louis Brandeis, for some laws that encourage venturing. On the other hand, it seems like judges in Africa make it harder to venture by how they interpret laws. In Nigeria currently, people are running from providing guarantees to entrepreneurs because of how bank verification numbers are being used to broadly cripple such people. Bankruptcy laws in America are designed to give entrepreneurs another lease of life, but in most of Africa, they scare people from venturing. Now let me wrap up. I apologize that a sudden health challenge has meant I am not present to speak to my talking points and expand the message that I speak. In spite of this, I hope the heart of the message has reached home, that intra-Africa trade with working groups to break the constrictions to cross-border trade is the way to go, that there are opportunities at the bottom of the pyramid, not just to compete, but to collaborate. The immorality of international power politics and trade that goes with it requires that Africa's elite use associational life like the opportunity the Africa Bar Association presents to find institutional pegs that increase intra-Africa trade, and deploying strategy like building competitive play on value chains rooted in latent comparative advantage to fuel unlimited industrial prosperity. You, as lawyers in Africa, owe the continent that. I thank you very much for your attention. I wish you successful deliberations.
Thank you very much, Bernardino Koku Avle, for that inspiring speech, and it stirs up a lot in us. This morning we have heard a lot that needs to get us, working actively. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Professor Anthony Ojukwu, son, Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission of Nigeria. Prof, thank you for being here with us. Thank you very much. I just also seen right here in front the Vice President of the Ghana Bar Association, Victoria Nanama Bath. Thank you very much for being here. His Royal Majesty, we now come to a point to decorate deserving individuals, but we understand that you need to take leave of us. We are very grateful. The African Bar Association is very grateful that you were here. Thank you so very much for making time to be here this afternoon. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stay put where you are, and we need all of you registered participants to have your tags on. You need to do that now. Otherwise, you won't get Ghana jollof. Please put your tags on. And thank you very much for your patience. And we will humbly ask that as His Royal Majesty takes leave of us, we will respectfully be upstanding. Thank you so very much. Thank you very much. Please resume your seats. And we will be done with this session in a jiffy. So please be patient and resume your seats. Thank you very much. We'll now invite the President of the African Bar Association, High Chief Ibrahim Edimak, to come up stage and help us to recognize the 2025 Award of Service, the AFBA Medal of Merit, to the following people. Thank you very much.
I think the first on the list is J.B. Daudu, SN, former Chairman, Council of AFBA. I think I saw the son is around, if he's around. Paul Daudu is he here? Come on, you can come and pick it on behalf of your fat dad. He has also produced a senior advocate. The next person on that list is Chief Charles Taku. Chief Taku has been the repository of knowledge of this association. He was in Abuja in the 1991 conference that took a lot of decisive decisions that has kept AFBA strong up to date. The next person is Rudolph Ezani, our executive director for a long time, who has tirelessly worked and stood for the organization, and we think we should give him a service award.
Thank you.
We have Mrs. Vemba Iyemba, who was our former Vice President, Southern Africa, and presently is one of the special advisors. So, and currently she's the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Justice of Zimbabwe. Okay, we will find how to send it to her. The next on that list is Rhoda Sophia Nkabo. She was also a former Vice President West Africa, and presently she's the chairperson of African Women Bar Association Women Forum. They are making waves. The next is Charles Kiera, presently Vice President East Africa. He has always been there with us on the trenches for a long time. We recognize him. Charles Kiari is from Kenya. The next on the list is Iyom Josephine Aneni, the first AFBA woman chairperson, and elder, former Minister of Women Affairs in Nigeria. And she is over 70 and still strong and coming. We recognize her service to AFBA. Who do you have? Don't finish. Evos. The other one's not there. I'm not there. But you do some citation.
This one, I hear he said, great. Okay. Okay. I have to go for it again.
The next person.
All right. Please pardon us. Now we have to read the citation of the Supreme Court of Kenya. The African Bar Association proudly confers its Medal of Merit upon the Supreme Court of Kenya in recognition of its exemplary leadership in advancing transformative jurisprudence, upholding constitutional supremacy, and fortifying democratic governance across Africa since its establishment under the 2010 Kenyan Constitution. The court, which exercises both original and appellate jurisdiction, comprises of judges who are appointed from amongst persons who have at least 15 years experience as superior court judges, or at least 15 years experience as distinguished academic, judicial officer, legal practitioner, or such experience in other related legal fields. Since its inaugural sitting on the 26th of October 2011, the Supreme Court has substantively managed to usher in a new era of justice and largely met the people's expectations of justice, of access to the courts as institutions of the people and for the people. Chief Justice Mutanga's words at the inauguration of the court have defined what the Supreme Court of Kenya has evolved to be and shows by its being honored. The Chief Justice said inter alia that the Supreme Court will be a court that fortifies the doctrine of equality before the law, one that eschews artificial hierarchy, so that the dues of justice can flow freely. A Supreme Court that is easy on its disposition and mean, but rigorous in its jurisprudence. A court that earns respect not from intimidating rituals and architectural poise, but rather from solidity and quality of its judgments. The Supreme Court of Kenya has lived up to those words as its following decisions and actions, among others, show. 1. The 2012 Advisory Opinion on Progressive Gender Representation, 2/3 Principle, 2012 EKLR. 2. The Rai versus Rai case, where the Supreme Court of Kenya, for the very first time, discussed robustly the jurisprudence of social justice as a practical tool for the transformation of Kenya's constitutional order. 3. The decision to drop out of the judges wearing the traditional robes that has a colonial reference to a more African-oriented dressing, attire, and climate-friendly, without the wigs and cufflinks. 4. Gatura Peter Munya versus Dixon Nwanda Kitinji, and 2 others. Petition number 2B of 2014, where the Supreme Court addressed the issues of electoral management and cautioned that, quote, nothing could imperil our democracy more than an electoral agency that is contaminated by bias, infected with incompetence, and affected by virus of minimal public accountability, end quotes. This case was an avoidance of the technicality route to dealing with electoral disputes that was akin to bowing to the establishment's capture of the electoral agency. 5. That's the last but one. In the Raila Omolo Odinga versus Uhuru Kenyatta and others presidential election petition number of 2017, in which the Supreme Court, in a landmark groundbreaking decision uncharacteristic of the past presidential and high-ranking electoral disputes decisions, ruled that the electoral agency had failed to discharge the burden that it had undertaken. It is in its management, rallying the electoral results and tallying the electoral results and declarations in accordance to the principle and in adherence to its duty, as prescribed by the Constitution. Consequently, the Supreme Court nullified the electoral victory for the first time of a sitting president in Kenya. And finally, the above cases preceded the most recent and most defining decision of the Supreme Court of Kenya. In the wake of Kenya's August 9, 2022 general elections, the Supreme Court confronted unprecedented challenges to the presidential result, consolidating petitions, including presidential election petition numbers E001 through E008, filed by Raila Odinga and others against William Ruto's declaration as president-elect. Amid heightened public scrutiny and allegations of electoral irregularities, the court, presided over by Chief Justice Martha Koome and comprising Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu, Justice Isaac Linaola, Justice Smoking Wanjala, and Justice Muhammad Ibrahim, as well as Justice Njoki Ndugu and Justice William Uko, demonstrated unwavering independence, transparency, and efficiency, adhering strictly to the 7-day constitutional timeline for resolution. Through rigorous hearings, expert testimonies, and meticulous examination of technological and procedural issues, from voter turnouts, discrepancies, to form transmission flaws, the bench delivered a unanimous 161-page judgment on September 5, 2022, dismissing the petitions and affirming Ruto's victory by a margin exceeding 50% plus one threshold. This 2022 landmark adjudication not only reinforced Kenya's constitutional framework, but also set a gold standard for judicial excellence in Africa, fostering public trust in electoral justice and averting potential instability. The court's balanced approach, emphasizing evidence-based reasoning over political pressures, has inspired judiciaries continent-wide, advancing good governance and the peaceful transfer of power. The African Bar Association honors the Supreme Court of Kenya's legacy of principled jurisprudence, a pillar of democratic resilience. We will now invite Justice Isaac Linaola to receive this award.
My lords, my ladies, excellencies, on behalf of the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, the judges of the court, and the judiciary of Kenya, let me thank you very much for this award. The Africa Bar Association, in recognizing the work of my court and the work of my colleagues, just tells us that we must continue being independent, continue being strong, continue being resilient, and continue being impartial, so that we must remain a beacon, not just for the African judiciaries, but also for the whole world, which looks up to us as Africans, to remain independent, and also to say that Africans are indeed beyond compromise, and the judges are beyond compromise in Africa, and that is why I'm here to say thank you, be strong, be resilient, see you next time, and please do allow me to say this. Yesterday, we buried a Pan-Africanist, Raila Amolo Odinga, whose election in 2017 as president of Kenya was whose petition was allowed in 2017 by the Supreme Court of Kenya, and we nullified the president's election on Raila Odinga's petition. We buried him yesterday, and I come also to say, this morning I listened to 2 songs by the band. The first one was Malaika by Fadhili Williams and renditioned by Mariam Makeba. The second song, which was sung throughout Kenya for the last 3 days, was the song Jamaica Farewell by Harry Belafonte. I was touched because that is a song Kenya sang all the days that were burying Raila Odinga. In conclusion, I thank you again for the honor given to the Supreme Court of Kenya, and I will carry your message to my court, to my Chief Justice, and to you, Ghanaians. We are brothers and sisters. And to you, Nigerians, we are brothers and sisters. If Kenya could nullify a president's election, why can't you if there is theft of elections in your country? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Justice Isaac. From the Supreme Court of Kenya, the bold court, to the Supreme Court of Ghana. But in the Supreme Court of Ghana, a retired justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana and my former teacher, Justice Nene Abayate Ofoe Amegache. The African Bar Association confers its Medal of Merit upon Justice Nene Abayate Ofoe Amegache, retired Justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana, for his exemplary leadership and enduring contribution to the legal profession and good governance in Africa. Over 4 decades, Justice Amegache has championed justice through adjudication, arbitration, litigation, and mediation, his favorite subjects. As Supreme Court Justice 2018 to 2023, he resolved critical commercial and labor disputes, reinforcing Ghana's rule of law. His expertise, bolstered by an LLM in advanced litigation and dispute resolution from Nottingham Trent University, 2006 to 2007, certificates in commercial dispute resolution from the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, 2005, and U.S. Department of Commerce, 2001, and alternative dispute resolution from California State University, 1996, enabled him to serve as arbitrator and lead counsel in local and international proceedings. A dedicated educator, he lectured on advocacy, legal ethics, and ADR at Ghana School of Law, 1994 to 2018, and tutored commercial law at Accra Polytechnic, 1980 to 1990, mentoring future leaders. His Pan-African leadership has been transformative. He chaired the Africa Regional Forum of the International Bar Association 2017 to 2018 and African Regional Hub of the Commonwealth Association of Lawyers 2017 to 2018, fostering continental legal collaboration. As Ghana's ICC International Court of Arbitration Representative 2015 to 2018 and West Africa Regional Representative on the Commonwealth Lawyers Association Council 2011 to 2018, he advanced fair arbitration and cross-border justice. In Ghana, he led as president of the Ghana Bar Association 2012 to 2015, member of the General Council of the Bar and Judicial Council 2012 to 2015, and chair of the Legal Aid Board 2020 to 2023. Additional roles include chair of the University of Ghana College of Humanities Advisory Council 2015 to 2018, World Vision Ghana Advisory Board 2009 to 2012, National ADR Task Force 2022 to 2009, 2002 to 2009, and Judicial Training Institute Board 2002 to 2006, plus ongoing service as arbitrator at the Ghana Arbitration Center 2005 to present. Justice Amegache's principled adjudication, regional advocacy, and mentorship have elevated African jurisprudence and governance. This Medal of Merit honors his legacy as a beacon of excellence. And we are happy to welcome Justice Amegache's daughter, to receive this award on his behalf. We understand he's presently away in Canada.
What is the next person? Next person. Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We now move on to award citation for His Excellency Professor Emmanuel Ibi Kachiku. The African Bar Association confers its Medal of Merit upon His Excellency Professor Emmanuel Ibi Kachiku, LLB Hons, BL, LLM, SJD, Harvard, PDPhil, Trinity, Georgia, DBA, Gutsu, USA, DPA, Windhoek, PSCG, and FCI AB, among others. In recognition of his exemplary leadership and transformative contributions to the legal profession, energy policy, and good governance across Africa. With over 4 decades of distinguished service, Professor Kachiku has been a trailblazer at the intersection of law, international arbitration, and public administration. A summa cum laude graduate from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, 1974 to 1978. He earned distinctions at the Nigerian Law School, 1979, an LLM with honors from Harvard in 1979 to 1980, specializing in energy and petroleum law, and an SJD from Harvard, setting a record for the fastest doctoral completion. His academic excellence continued with a Doctor of Business Administration in the United States of America and a Doctor of Public Administration from the University of Namibia. Alongside fellowships in corporate governance, arbitration, and petroleum policy, Professor Kachiku's legal career spans advisory roles at Texaco, Nigeria, where he served as general counsel overseeing legal compliance across divisions, to executive vice chairman and general counsel at ExxonMobil, Nigeria, ensuring adherence to anti-corruption laws and regulations across Africa, as group managing director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, and Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, 2015 to 2019. He spearheaded reforms for transparency, accountability, and profitability in Nigeria's oil sector, institutionalizing strategic plans that boosted national revenue. His Pan-African and global leadership has profoundly shaped energy governance. As president of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, 2015 to 2016, he navigated international oil markets for stability and equity. He served 3 unprecedented terms as president of the African Petroleum Producers Organization, APO, 2016 to 2018, revitalizing the body through major reforms, including the appointment of key secretaries general. A fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, he has influenced dispute resolution in energy investment, authoring seminal works like Corporate Foreign Investment in Nigeria, Issues of Law and Policy, Legal Issues in Petroleum Sector, and Compendium of Oil and Gas Cases in Nigeria, volumes 1 to 4, alongside articles on indigenization, constitutionalism, and foreign investment regulations. as a visiting professor of law at institutions including Harvard, Bayes University, Afe Baba Lola University, and Cavendish University, Zambia. He mentors emerging African jurists. His chieftaincy titles: Odogu of Onitsha Ugbo, Isagba of Izechemi Kingdom, Badegum of Owu Kingdom, and Ogboagu of Oguta reflect his cultural stewardship. Honors include the U.S. Congressional Certificate of Recognition 2017, Oil Industry Leadership Award, Patton 2017, Nelson Mandela Pan-African Exemplary Leadership 2016, and nominations for the 2024 U.S. President's Lifetime Achievement Award. Professor Kachiku's legacy of principled innovation, regional collaboration, and ethical governance has fortified Africa's energy frameworks and rule of law. This Medal of Merit celebrates his enduring impact as a visionary steward.
Right. May we have you for your award?
So, His Excellency Professor Emmanuel Ibe Kachiku.
I think we can use Yes. Go to this one. Leave this one. Go to this one. This posthumous one.
We should go on?
Yeah, go on this one. And this and this.
I should do this and this.
Yes.
Okay. Please bear with us. We should be done soon. We have to give honor to whom honor is due. Senator Abubakar Danso Sodanji, son. The African Bar Association proudly confers its Medal of Merit posthumously upon Senator Abubakar Danso Sodanji, son. January 31, 1954 to March 10, 2024. Eminent Nigerian jurist and statesman for his exemplary leadership and lasting contributions to the legal profession, human rights, and good governance. Educated at Nasarawa Central School, Government Secondary School, Ofia, School of Preliminary Studies, Kefi, University of Sokoto, and Nigerian Law School. Senator Sodanji was enrolled as a solicitor and advocate, rising to Senior Advocate of Nigeria, SAN. His practice emphasized integrity, justice, and advocacy for the vulnerable. As pioneer chairman of the African Bar Association's Nigeria Forum, he drove continental collaboration, professional development, and institutional reforms. Former chairman of the NBA Abuja branch, he advanced ethical standards and access to justice. His affiliations with the Commonwealth Lawyers Association, International Bar Association, and Human Rights Institutes amplified global advocacy for equitable laws and protections. In public service, he represented Nasarawa West in the Senate, 1999 to 2007, chairing judiciary and human rights committees to propel legislative reforms and democracy. The African Bar Association salutes Senator Sodanji's commitment to the rule of law and Pan-African solidarity. a guiding light for jurists. Please, shall we welcome
Nia Kintola SN to come and pick it on his behalf.
Thank you very much. We'll do the last one. This award citation is for Mr. Charles I. Idehen. The African Bar Association proudly confers its Medal of Merit posthumously upon Mr. Charles I. Idehen, pioneering Nigerian legal luminary and former president of both the Nigerian Bar Association and the African Bar Association, in recognition of his exemplary leadership and indelible contributions to the legal profession, the rule of law, and good governance across Africa. Born 1941 in Benin City, Edo State, into the industrious Idehen family, Mr. Idehen exemplified resilience and integrity from his formative years. Educated at Anglican Kindergarten School, Ayaro, St. Matthew's Primary School, Sakoba, and St. Patrick's College, Asaba. He pursued a law degree in England before being enrolled at the Nigerian Law School in July 1966 and commencing practice in September of that year. Over nearly 6 decades as a practitioner in Benin, he built a reputation as a steadfast defender of human rights, championing the marginalized and oppressed while upholding principles of justice, fairness, and accountability. Mr. Idahen's leadership transformed African jurisprudence. As chairman and first vice president of the NBA Edo branch, he laid the groundwork for national impact. Elected NBA president 1989 to 1991, the first outside Lagos. His tenure advanced an independent judiciary, a prosperous legal profession, and unity among practitioners, renowned for its active commitment to the rule of law. As AFBA president, he bridged divides across the continent, mediating conflicts, promoting legal reforms, and fostering dialogue among nations to strengthen governance and equity. Venturing into public service, he contested the governorship of Bendel State, embodying his vision for societal change through ethical leadership. His legacy as a bridge builder and inspiration endures, influencing generations of jurists dedicated to integrity and collaboration. In honoring Mr. Idahen's profound impact, the African Bar Association celebrates a life that fortified the rule of law and advanced Africa's legal heritage. Please, shall we welcome
Owacho Ade, they could come and pick it up for him. Which one is it?
We have a few people to say thank you to, and then the procession will lead, and we will take our break because we need to grab and razzle some bites. We want to invite Mrs. Sefua Gate, President of the Ghana Bar Association, saying enormous thank you for all the effort you have put in to bring the Africa Bar Association Conference for 2025 to this beautiful commencement. Thank you very much. Right, flanked by her executives. Thank you very much.
The next is Chief of Defense Staff, General C.G. Musa, FR, Chief of Defense Staff, Nigeria.
Please, let's applaud him. The Honorable Judge Meata Maria Samba, the International Criminal Court, The Hague, Netherlands. This is to say thank you to the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAR. Federal Airports of Nigeria, thank you very much. Thank you. Lieutenant General O. Oluyede, Chief of Army Staff of the Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much, sir. The Honorable Judge Ricardo Claudio Monteiro Concalves, President, ECOWAS Court of Justice. Thank you, President Goncalves. Professor Isa Chiroma San, Director General, Nigerian Law School. There are 1,001 Nigerians here. Please receive it on his behalf.
Tony Ojukwu is here, Professor Tony Ojukwu.
We will also like to say thank you to Mr. Zach Adelabu Adedeji, Executive Secretary of FIRS. Thank you, sir. This is also to say thank you to the Lagos Internal Revenue Service. The Lagos Internal Revenue Service, in appreciation of your support and contributions to the success of the African Bar Association 2025 Annual Conference in Accra, Ghana. Lagos Internal Revenue Service.
Sorry. Where is Chiroma? One.
All right, so thank you very much, President of the African Bar. Thank you very much, High Chief Ibrahim Eddie Mark. Please, a round of applause for him. He's been standing here all this while doing the honors. So we move out the very same way we came in. So we will ask the awardees to join the procession. The awardees join the procession. All women delegates are encouraged to attend the Women Forum session at 4 p.m. today at this very hall. It's 4 p.m. That's the Pavilion Kadesa Pavilion. It's today. There's also a cocktail for women, and the time is 6 p.m. till late. Thank you very much. Shall we have the procession? All the medal recipients join the procession. Remember to keep your tags on. If you want to eat jollof, you should keep your tags on. If you want to tour the beautiful city of Accra, registration is going on. The Accra by night bus. Also look out for the Ghanaian exhibitors exhibiting precious Ghanaian products out there. Thank you very much. Enjoy your lunch.